Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Furman Football Monday. I am Dan Scott. This is head coach Clay Hendrix. The Paladins coming off of a season-opening 29-18 win over North Carolina A&T back on Saturday, and looking ahead to the first road trip of 2021 to Tennessee Tech this Saturday. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on, but as mentioned, the head coach Clay Hendrix is here. How are you, sir?
I'm well.
Fun Saturday, and a lot of the fun went on even before we kicked it off. What do you think about the new game day atmosphere here?
It was terrific. I obviously I liked it. I was really pleased to see how our players responded, and I think coming through that new student section was really, really good. And I've heard a lot of great reports. Obviously, I don't get to partake in much of that, but I kind of witnessed it going around my family. Had some friends here, and hats off to Jason Donnelly specifically. I know there's a lot of people that put a lot of hard work into making that happen, and hopefully it'll just continue to get better.
Well, I know the one thing that you would have been able to take notice of was the crowd. Announced attendance of 11,628. Saturday was the first game of my 11th season here, and I can only remember one or two previous times that we crossed a 10,000 attendance plateau. And I know when you were here, that was pretty standard. It was good to see that many people in the seats.
It was great to see that many people. And, I thought we certainly had a chance to do that, particularly with a, quality opponent that we had that has great history and tradition. I think similar to ours. I knew they'd travel well. And, I do remember the day we had a lot more of that. I know the landscape of college football, probably exception of maybe the highest level, and even only a percentage of that has that. TV certainly has changed a lot of it, and but we had a great crowd, and beautiful weather, and and then certainly the fact we got a really good win. Kind of really topped it off, and just really proud of how our players played, how they competed, and against a really good opponent. And obviously a lot of things we got to do better, but boy, it felt good to get a really good win.
I mean, we were talking right before kickoff on the radio broadcast about the atmosphere and about the crowd it looked like we were going to have, and the new end zone and everything that has gone into making this an event now for 5 Saturdays a year this season here at Furman. I said, but the one thing that is most important above all that other stuff, which is great, is that you get a win today, and your kids came out and did that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that. We'd be sitting here feeling a lot differently maybe if we hadn't taken care of business on Saturday, but it was great to get a win. And, a lot of ups and downs in the game and adversity, and really just proud of how our kids hung in there and handled adversity. And, had a chance to – I told them I had a chance to really kind of have a dominant performance. And, we got to come back and fix those things that really give us a chance to put an opponent away. It's hard to put a really good opponent away that's used to winning a lot of football games, and I think they respond just like I think our kids would respond. And but again, really happy with the win.
You're a guy that I've come to figure out. You try to stay pretty much on an even keel. You were a little bit pumped up in our post-game radio interview. You were as excited as I've heard you in a long time. Was it just the fact that we were back here? I mean, obviously the wind had something to do with it, but playing in the fall, was it just kind of the perfect storm coming together?
I think we have a little saying around our office sometimes, and I think the best way I could answer that is by saying yes. I just think the fact that we had a chance to play, it's always – first games are always a little different, all the work you've put in, not only in August, but, the entire year, coming off the disappointing spring and a really weird spring, and then obviously the changes that were made around here, the atmosphere we had. It was just and really couldn't have scripted it much better.
And the one thing you said in the post game, and you kind of reiterated it just a moment ago in passing, was you were proud of how hard your kids played on both sides of the ball.
I did, and I go back and watch the tape, and I feel that even more so. That was one of those kinds of football games. If you played in that one, boy, you felt it. You probably felt it Saturday night, especially in today, Sunday, and then on in today. But two teams that were, Coach Washington, we were talking before the game, and I think kind of believe in a lot of the same things, the way you play. And he's a defensive guy, but two teams that had great tradition of really good defense, want to run the ball, want to be physical, and a lot of things on tape now to see. It's always, you always hear the analogy of game 1 to game 2. A lot of truth in that. Just the fact that you have things, we kicked 7. I guess we had, I think it's 7 field goal or PAT attempts live. We had actually done a couple in August, which I hadn't done very often, and we got a lot of work to do there.
Mm-hmm.
We got to shore some things up. All the special teams, and I think we were really close in a lot of areas. I looked at our offensive line. I think we played 7 guys. Didn't have Clark Daniel available. Hopefully we'll have him this week. But I think we played 2 freshmen, 4 sophomores, and a junior. And about 3 or 4 of them some had almost played not at all, and some had played very little. And so I'm kind of excited to see, where we go, and hopefully we'll make a lot of progress this week.
You had all of the hype leading into it, everything pointing to kickoff, and we get into the game, and 6 plays into the game, everything comes to a screeching halt because of the injury. Thankfully, the Crossing kid from North Carolina A&T, I found out today, he's obviously hurt, he's sore, but he had movement in all of his extremities. He was able to talk and everything as they finally took him out of here. But that shut everything down, and all that emotion drained out of the stadium and both sidelines and everything for, a good 20 minutes or so. And then you got to come back and find a way to recapture that energy, and I thought your kids did that.
Well, I thought they did, and I think that was maybe a third down play,
right.
So we were going to have to punt after that. It was great to hear that about him. I felt pretty good. Just, I don't know, I guess I've been around that enough, watching him, how they handled him there before he left the field. You felt like you had a chance to have a good outcome, but you never know. But no, there was that. I know the umpire went down and stopped the game again, and in fact, the referee even walked over to us when that happened and said, "Hey, we're still going to have all the timeouts." So it was a long football game. Mm-hmm. It really was, and a lot of back and forth, and but again, just find a way for your kids to hang in there and make plays, and we had a lot of guys did, and I told them after the game, it took everybody. I mean, it really did. Everybody in our whole organization, defensively, offensively, our special teams did a lot of really good things, and again, I'm just excited to have a chance to go back out there today and see if we can get better.
This is Furman Football Monday with Clay Hendrix. I'm Dan Scott, talking about the season-opening 29-18 win over North Carolina A&T. You're a guy who has said a number of times you like playing in the heat of the day here at Furman because you think that your conditioning is going to give you an advantage. Did you see that on Saturday? You ran 80 plays offensively, 40 pass, 39 run, which we'll talk about in a minute. But did you start to see the fatigue on North Carolina A&T that you hope to see?
Yeah, I thought I did. I think I get probably the one disappointing thing was a couple of times, we gave up some big plays where I felt like we really had a chance to kind of add to that, and we gave up a couple of big plays, even though we played extremely well defensively, and which maybe I kind of kept giving them a little bit of life. And again, when you play somebody that's used to winning football games, and they approach it a little bit differently, and so I didn't see a whole lot of quit in them. They kept mm-hmm. coming back fighting, and but I do think the condition played a part, and we were short a couple of guys that hopefully we'll get back, and a few bumps and bruises, or maybe a guy or two. We'll have to kind of get into the week of practice and see who exactly we'll have available this week.
A Clay Hendrix team throws the ball 40 times. completed 25 of them. In fact, we'll put Ham Sisson's numbers up for folks to see again. 25 completions, 362 yards, which is the second most for a quarterback in Furman's single-game history. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Before this one, Clay, the 4 highest passing yardage totals for a Furman quarterback had all come in losses.
I probably could have told you that.
Yeah, but this time it came in a victory, and it was good enough to earn Hamp Sisson the just-announced Southern Conference Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, well-deserved. Hamp had a great day, and there's some guys had some good days in our conference, so but well-deserved for him. I tell you, it starts with Hamp. I told our team this morning, we had our team meeting. We obviously, it's Labor Day, but we're laboring today. So
right.
we were met this morning, and just really so proud of him. Again, you've heard me say it, I don't know if there's a guy that works harder, is more committed, better teammate, better leader than Hamp Sisson. And, had a tough spring. We didn't help him a lot. I'd like to say this. I think first and foremost, all of our assistants, those offensive guys, have done a phenomenal job putting him in a better position. I think he's got some really good players around him. And, at the end of the day, we saw probably some similar stuff that we saw in the spring, from a schematic standpoint. And I think we were certainly a lot better prepared to take advantage of some of it, which I felt like all along. I don't, what do we got to do to win the football game?
Mm-hmm.
And we have some guys that certainly we want to get the ball to. And, I laughed. I think I said after the game, maybe Ryan Miller can be considered an all-conference player if he can keep that up during the year. But, a little side note there, I was standing and talking to Coach Washington before the game and never met him before. Great man. Really enjoyed visiting with him. And Ryan Miller walks by, and he pointed. He said, "That number 82, we got to cover him. He's a good player." I said, "He has been a good player for us, and been productive." And lo and behold, obviously Ryan made some huge plays in the game. But no, we're going to do what we feel like we have to do. I do want to run the football better. Now, a lot of it, give them credit. They've been one of the best rushing defenses in the country for a long time. And, we can beat our head against the wall and turn it into an inside drill, or we can give our guys a better chance, to be successful. So we're going to do what we have to. We got a lot of offense that we didn't run Saturday, and so we'll tweak it a little bit each week. But Hamp, I think with the exception of probably a couple of throws. I mean, there's a couple of throws I know he'd like to have back, because I do think we left some points on the field. And but hey, they'll give us plenty to go work on this week.
Well, as I told you when we were talking before we started the show, it's nice as a football coach and staff to be able to correct those things after a win and not after a loss.
Well, absolutely. And again, the key here is I thought we were pretty good assignment-wise, both sides of the ball. We've got to run the football better. And defensively, I just thought we were absolutely dominant up front.
Mm-hmm.
We got to eliminate some big plays. And then the flip side of that is we made as many big plays as we've made in a while against a really good opponent. So I felt like all along we had some guys that could make those explosion plays, as we call them. And again, we'll come out here this week and try to get better at some stuff. And there's never going to be any wholesale changes, but we'll tweak some things from week to week. And I like this group, like how they work. And I do know there's some talent there, and we'll keep working to get better.
Talking about Ryan Miller, he told Marcus in the radio postgame that he had been waiting for the play call to come on the call that he ran the 87-yard touchdown on the short throw. He said he'd been waiting for that call to come all game, and that's when it came.
Well, what's kind of interesting, again, one of the things we talked about our team is we worked – we work a lot of those situations, and, we work sudden change against our defense, and we put them in a bad spot twice, with turnovers. And really what you're hoping is there, at the very worst, you want to be able to force a kick, force them to kick a field goal. They're already quite often in field goal range when they get the ball. And obviously we did it both times and held them to 0 points. But that's something we've practiced hard at. We've practiced really hard at coming out. And, being backed up, we get the turnover, get it out, and, a couple things. We had a couple of, we don't want pre and post snap penalties. And we had a couple of post snap penalties, which I'm not sure I agree with a couple of them, and I'll go through the proper channels about how what happened. But we got it out, got pushed back again, and then certainly he made a big play. And boy, he's you think about it, he's done that a number of times. And if anybody questions how fast Ryan Miller is, they just need to watch that clip.
Yeah,
so.
Ryan DeLuca had some nice catches for you, as he always does, just steady and consistent. And then we got our first look at the freshman Joshua Harris. Everybody looks at, obviously, the big touchdown and the speed and what he did there, but he made a couple of tough catches for you. I know you were high on this kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it all August. And, really he had a couple of other times, he didn't run the right route where we had a chance to get to him a couple more times. And one of them, on our sideline, if you remember, he made the catch anyways. Mm-hmm. He was out of bounds. But, no, I do think we have some – obviously as good a group there as we've had since we've been here, and there's some length, there's some speed, there's a little bit of size, and it was kind of nice to see the receiving, numbers being passed around there as well. There are quite a few guys that made plays, and Devin Wynn made a huge play, and DeJuan Bell. I mean, boy, DeJuan, got popped twice. I know of. And I thought DeJuan did some really good things in the return game. I think a lot of that's DeJuan's just an older guy now, and was really aggressive back there, punt returns and kickoff returns, and he's done it before, and I think he'll have a chance to do it again.
That's what the team stat box looked like, total yards, and they got most of their total yards in the second half. But the thing that I think you circle, if I had a telestrator here and could go John Madden and circle on the screen, would be holding them to 71 rushing yards on the day, and in the process shutting down Jermaine Martin. In 2019, he had the fourth best single season rushing the football in North Carolina A&T history, and they've had some pretty good running backs there. He had over 1,400 yards and 23 touchdowns just running the football. And you held him in the game to 33 yards on 12 carries. And you talked about how dominant your defense was up front. There's not a better stat to point that out, I think, than what you did to Jermaine Martin.
Well, for us, that's where it starts. And, boy, I thought our guys, again, like I said, the front seven. I say the front seven. I mean, Travis Blackshear had a phenomenal day. And kid Travis, a lot of people think corners won't tackle, but Travis likes to tackle too. But Cam Brinson really playing for the first time in there a lot, as a safety back there. But I just thought our front seven was so disruptive. I thought they were pretty good in the offensive line. Big, obviously, and in the back. And, I don't know. I think there were some things as I was told, was put out there a little bit on social media. And I think our defense took that to heart and played with a little more of a chip on their shoulder. And, that just really, to me, that set the tone for the whole game. And, you're always nitpicking as a coach. I'd like to get to the quarterback a little bit more. Had a chance to maybe get to him a little bit more, and that'll give us something to work on. I think it's something we'll certainly be able to do. But those guys are playing well. I know, like, again, they had a great August. We got some depth, and it'll be fun to watch them going forward.
Yeah, they had talking about A&T, 3 starters on their offensive line back from 2019. So it was a veteran group, and you handled them well. And it's funny to hear maybe some things on social media. Social media, and especially Twitter, is today's bulletin board, right? We used to talk about bulletin board material in the old days. That's something as a coach. I know different coaches have different philosophies on stuff like that. Do you see things sometimes, or people bring you things sometimes that maybe some of your kids have tweeted and you think, what in the world are you thinking?
Well, fortunately, do I say I've seen that? Absolutely I have. But fortunately, I think we tried to do a really good job of not only educating, but obviously we have some things we expect from them and or don't expect from them. So our kids I think are smart enough to understand that. Certainly it's a great recruiting tool. But boy, Dan, at the end of the day, it's one game.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy we got a win. But I told I told them the day that we reported in August, they wouldn't hear me mention the spring, and I hadn't mentioned it till after the game, from that day forward. But North Carolina A&T is history,
right?
And Tennessee Tech's still a little bit of a mystery, so we're just trying to deal with today and get ready for that. But we do have some really good things to build on. We have a lot of things to work on. And again, our key is to do our guys have the right mindset. I told them this morning, the most critical person to these guys today needs to be themselves, and it's taking coaching. I told the coaches to coach them hard, and be demanding. And I think that's how we work anyways. But, just truly realizing what I've got to be better at. And I think we've got the right group.
Well, one more thing about the history of last Saturday. You mentioned Travis Blackshear. He had a big day for you. He had an interception, a forced fumble, and when we talked to him post game in the interview room, he talked about the fact that he had been beaten on a previous play and felt like he needed to do something to make up for it. And I think that's when he forced the fumble. But he had a big day for you defensively. And like you said, as a cornerback, everybody thinks Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders loved to cover, hated to hit. At least that was his reputation. Travis doesn't mind sticking his head in there.
Boy, not at all. I mean, he's made some big hits before. And, now that you say that, I do, he gave up the post there right before that. They got him get it down there. And, you talk about Hamp and you talk about Travis. And then Ivan Yates on the other side. Ivan's really first time he's played a lot of football. He had spotted in a little bit in the spring, but it's just, boy, you're putting yourself out there, and when you have a bad play, it shows up. And I think Travis, and again, even when you're an old guy and a good player, you're going to have some of those plays. But he. Again, had a terrific day, really did, and I'm happy for him, and I think we've got some really good young corners over there, and we got to keep developing. Carrico Wright's done a great job with them, and I think they're only going to get better.
You mentioned DeJuan Bell just a moment ago. We don't want to let this show get away without saying happy birthday to both DeJuan and Evan Jumper. So a couple of young guys celebrating and get to celebrate after a win and hopefully continue. If they're like my daughters anyway, they expect to celebrate their birthday for a week or more. So let's just keep celebrating as we move forward. You talked about getting some things corrected and getting it on film in live game action for the first time. As you start your preparation for Tennessee Tech this week, what are some things that you want to work on? What do you want to get cleaned up?
Well, I just think, again, you've heard the word attention to detail. At the end of the day, just the detail. It was it was some simple things as we're running, just a wide zone play, and our guard's too wide on his path and allows a guy to get in the seam a little bit. And that's something I'm not sure we'll ever not coach that up every day. Mm-hmm. But just, things like that show up, but just the attention to detail. Probably in the run game, it's typical first game. You get a few things a little different than you expected, and having the ability to maybe get out of some bad plays where maybe you're just a hat short. Certainly, some of the RPOs you saw that we hit are a way to answer some of that. But getting the quarterback dialed into that, and at least now we're playing an opponent that's got to play in the spring, but they played a game. And as we have too, so you got something to look at a little bit personnel-wise. But I think it's just continuing to get better at what we're doing. And, you get a guy like Wyatt Hughes, really had competed like crazy with Evan Jumper for that starting spot at center. And the plan was to play both of them. And then we didn't have Clark Daniel available. And we literally moved Wyatt over there on Wednesday. Practiced all. I don't know if people realize how hard that is to do. Now, he'd played guard before, but we just really had not asked him to do much this fall. And he jumped over there and played really solidly. And then E.J. Wilson, a guy, freshman's really never played. I think he maybe played one game, in the spring, maybe the first game last year. So there's all kinds of little bits and pieces, that now they've been in the battle. Hopefully they'll be a whole lot better for it, just being put in that situation. And, again, against a really quality opponent.
Yeah, and I think we need to circle back to something that I don't want to let get away. You've talked about wanting to improve your running game, and I think that's obvious. But on Saturday, the one series that you needed to run the football, and I think that's when we saw the fatigue really take shape against North Carolina A&T. That final series when you were able to drive down and then kick the short field goal to make it a 2-score game again. That's the one time, the most important time you needed to run the football, and you were able to do it.
Yeah, we really did. And, boy, if we had the third, I think it was maybe a 3rd and 3 before we kicked the field goal. And if we could have converted that one, it might have been about as good as you could have drawn it up. You talk about 4-minute drill, which is basically you're trying to run clock, make first downs. They had all 3 timeouts. We made them use 2 of them. And if we could have punched that one across, or at least got another first down, I think we could have ended the game down there. But being able to do that, being able to come in and make a field goal in that situation, and then we squib kicked it and did a great job on that. We covered, and then defensively got to end the game for us. So a lot of those things it's just hard to practice that stuff,
right,
where it's truly in that situation. That'll pay off for us.
So what do you know about Tennessee Tech? I know today and tomorrow you really start getting into it, but what can you tell us about?
Well, we have really started yesterday, and even before that, they did play in the spring. Coach Alexander I've known for a long time, really, really good football coach. I think he's actually a grad as well. You know what? You watch them, I think their philosophy is a little bit like ours. You watch them, their kids play really hard. Mm-hmm. They're tough-minded both sides of the ball. They've they beat an Austin P team in the spring. They went and played Sanford, so certainly somebody we know a little bit about, who's, I wouldn't say he's a lot like us. They do some things, so there's not a great comparison there. Played really well for a half and gave up some big plays, and it kind of turned the game. So, I look at them. You go back even a couple of years, they've had some really big wins at home. I think beat Jacksonville State at home 2 years ago. To beat them anywhere. Mm-hmm. So it'll be a really quality opponent, and I think the biggest thing we just need to worry about us. And I do think schematically there's some similarities to them and North Carolina A&T. So it's not one of those weeks where you're changing gears from a spread team to a triple option team. So hopefully not quite as much of a learning curve.
You won't do that until you get in the conference play, right?
Then that's every week in the conference.
Well, the schedule inside the Southern Conference looks like this. Besides Furman at Tennessee Tech, VMI will be at Kent State, Citadel hosting Charleston Southern, Mercer is at Alabama, Western Carolina goes to Oklahoma, Chattanooga, North Alabama, Samford on the road at UT Martin, and ETSU coming off a win over Vanderbilt, hosting Virginia Wise. That is the schedule for this coming Saturday, September the 11th. Anything that we haven't gotten to that we need to cross off the list before we wrap up?
No, I'd probably like to echo, a little bit just Jason Donnelly and vision he's had for game day here. Really the vision he's had for Furman Athletics since he came here, and certainly was a great day, great way to get all that started, and excited about the things ahead. And, I'd shout out to North Carolina A&T. Boy, just like I said, I'd never met Coach Washington, just what a first-class man, and, just an honor to be able to play them. This was a game I wanted to play. We were looking for an opponent, and we tried to find an elite-type program to come here. It needed to be a home game for us at the time where we were scheduling, and we returned the game.
2005. 2025.
I knew it was 24 or 25. Yeah. I knew there were a couple of years before we returned it, but just really happy to get a win against a quality opponent, and just trying to see how much better we can play this week.
I'll say now all you got to do is go out and do it all over again, right?
That's true. That's true. And go practice, and we'll have a great week of practice, and prep, and again, just the key is can we go be better and fix some things we didn't do very well, and build upon some things that we did do well.
Well, Clay, as always, we appreciate your time. Hopefully next week we'll be back to the live version of Furman Football Mondays with head coach Clay Hendrix. But hopefully you enjoyed this version today. And Tennessee Tech coming up, 2:30 kickoff, which means we'll be on the air with the pregame show on the Ingalls Furman Radio Network at 1 p.m. from Cookeville, Tennessee. Coach, thanks.
Thank you.
That's head coach Clay Hendrix. I'm Dan Scott. This has been Furman Football Monday. Until next time, God bless you, and so long, everybody.